We're back with another episode of Save or Skip, raw gameplay, first impressions, and a straight answer on whether the game is worth your time or better left alone. I'm Linda, and today we're diving into Saros. This one comes from Housemarque, the studio behind Returnal. If that name means anything to you, you already have some idea of what you're walking into. If it doesn't, you're about to find out. You play as Arjun Devraj, a Soltari enforcer voiced and modeled after actor Rahul Kohli. You might know him from Midnight Mass. He's been sent to a planet called Carcosa, where 3 waves of colonists have already vanished without explanation. And from the moment you land, it's obvious why. The planet shifts. The architecture doesn't make sense. And every time a solar eclipse hits, and they hit often, enemies get more aggressive, reality warps, and everything spirals. Oh, and you keep coming back after death, as if nothing happened. That's not a glitch. That's the whole design. And you feel that the moment you're actually in control. Because Saros doesn't ease you in. The combat is fast, bullet hell fast, but it's not chaos for the sake of it. It's controlled pressure. You're constantly moving, reading the battlefield, and making split-second decisions about what to do with every projectile flying at you. Here's how it breaks down. Blue shots. You absorb them with your Soltari shield to build energy. Red shots? You parry them back at enemies. Yellow shots from the eclipse. Those are the ones that chip your maximum armor, so you can't just tank them and move on. Every color means something. Every second is a decision. And when you build enough energy from those absorbed shots, that's when your power weapon kicks in. You charge it with L2, release with R2, and it clears the room. The whole loop, absorb, charge, discharge, becomes this rhythm that takes a while to click. But when it does, you feel unstoppable. There's also the Chrono-Dash. Time it right on a dodge and you slow time for just a heartbeat, enough to find your footing, reposition, and counter. It's the kind of mechanic that sounds simple until you're in a room full of enemies and suddenly everything slows down, and you know exactly what to do next. The weapons back all of that up. You carry 1 gun at a time with infinite ammo, and every weapon has an alternate fire mode on a half press of L2. Some have heavy auto-aim, so you can focus entirely on movement. Others strip that away completely. More serious damage, but you're earning every hit. Later in the game, you get weapons that chain lightning between enemies, or fire in patterns that force you to play more aggressively to get value out of them. And the DualSense makes it feel like no other shooter right now. When your weapon overheats, the triggers physically resist. That's your cue to switch to melee, or the shield, not a screen prompt, not a sound effect. Your hands tell you. Once I stopped playing it like a standard shooter and started treating every fight like a dance, everything changed. The bosses are where that dance peaks. These aren't damage sponges. They're moving puzzles. Early bosses are more stationary. They teach you to read patterns and position properly. Later, bosses layer in enemy waves on top of the fight itself, forcing you to manage the room while tracking the main threat. I failed the same boss more times than I want to admit. But each time I got a little further, a little cleaner. When I finally cracked it, it didn't feel lucky. It felt like I'd earned the right to move on. But this is where the game starts to work against itself. Saros is built around roguelite runs. Die, and you're back at the passage, the hub between biomes, where you spend your Lucenite on permanent upgrades. Health, armor, suit enhancements, new weapon options. That part works. You always feel like you're building toward something. The friction is the runs themselves. Each biome has to be completed before you can push forward. And depending on where you are in the game, That can mean 20 to 30 minutes of familiar rooms just to get back to the boss that stopped you. There is a fast travel option once you've unlocked biomes, and that helps. But the repetition still settles in around hour 15 or 20. Not because the combat loses its spark. It doesn't. But the structure doesn't throw enough new variables at you to make every run feel distinct. The progression upgrades smooth the difficulty more than they shift how you play. So instead of feeling like you're evolving, it starts to feel like you're enduring. And that's a very different experience. The story sits somewhere in between. Arjun works as a character. Rahul Kohli's performance is grounded. You feel the weight on him, the guilt, the sense that he's dealing with something much deeper than just the mission. The mystery of Carcosa is genuinely compelling, told through fragmented text logs, voice memos, and stuttering flashbacks that reward attention. But the ensemble cast around Arjun doesn't get enough space to breathe. The game sets up several relationships that feel like they're building to something, and then quietly drops them. By the end, some of the questions left behind feel less like intentional ambiguity and more like unfinished threads. It doesn't sink the experience, but it keeps the story from landing the way it should. So after 20 plus hours, here's where I landed. Saros is a genuinely great game with friction built into its DNA. The combat is excellent. The DualSense integration is the best I've experienced on PS5. The boss fights are some of the most satisfying I've played this year. And Carcosa itself, Orange, Amber, Neon, is a visual showcase for what this hardware can do. But the structure wears you down over time, and the story doesn't fully stick its landing. If you want to master a system, to absorb, adapt, and finally break through, there's a lot here for you. If you're coming in cold with no experience with Returnal or this style of game, the Second Chance Revival feature and the difficulty modifiers give you room to find your footing without stripping away the challenge. If you need constant forward momentum or a story that pays off cleanly, it might not fully deliver. For me, it was worth every run. Not because it's flawless, because when it clicks, nothing on PS5 right now feels quite like it. The verdict: save it. Saros is fast, precise, and visually stunning. The kind of game that demands everything from you and gives it back when you're ready. If this is the kind of breakdown you're after, straight talk, real gameplay, stick around. There's plenty more coming your way. Remember to like, share, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe. This is Game Saved. Saved you a click.